Well, Japan this morning condemning an online video that purports to show an ISIS militant beheading a Japanese journalist, Kenji Goto. The video posted online ended days of negotiations and heightened fears for the life of a Jordanian fighter pilot who is also being held hostage. Ed Royce is chairman of the House Foreign Affairs Committee. He joins us right now. Representative, good to have you on the program. Welcome.
Thank you.
What do you think this tells us, that they are putting this video out, beheading a Japanese journalist? Why Japan?
Well, for one thing, they're attempting to raise money. Last year, ISIS raised tens of millions of dollars by extorting ransom. And in this particular case, the original request was for, or demand was for $200 million. So that's one point. But the second point is that ISIS is messaging out to young men around the world that respond to their message to come and join the fight for the caliphate and come and kill the infidel. And that's part of the messaging that they use on social media in order to expand this terrorist organization.
Let me ask you about how Army Sergeant Bo Bergdahl fits into all of this. Of course, he was the trade for those 5 Taliban fighters who now we learn at least one of them is back to fighting the militant fight. Is this part of that swap?
Well, this was a blunder, in my opinion, and I indicated that at the time. And if you'll recall, the Senate prior to the release, in maybe it was 2011, indicated that we should not go down this road. In other words, the United States and the UK traditionally has tried to avoid rewarding this type of situation by turning over terrorists or paying ransom. And in this case, the 5 that were turned over, 2 of them were top, not just Taliban fighters, but had high-level connections to al-Qaeda. Between them, they had slaughtered some 5,000 people in Afghanistan, religious minorities there. And so these are very dangerous individuals. One of them has been caught now trying to enlist back into the fight, and 30% of all of those who have been released from Guantanamo have joined again to try to kill Americans and to carry out a jihad. So this, I think, is an example of the administration setting a very bad precedent.
All right, we want to talk a lot more with you, Congressman, particularly as it relates to Iran and the Iran sanctions that are being discussed right now. So stay with us, Congressman Ed Royce, to talk more about that. But first, new questions about the administration's plan to defeat this terrorist group after yet another horrific beheading. Fox News' senior correspondent Eric Shawn joins us now with that angle. Good morning to you, Eric.
Good morning, Maria, and good morning, everyone. The president promises ISIS will be destroyed. Instead, it is only spreading.
The policy of the present administration is doing more harm to the growth of ISIS than it's doing right.
Ahmed al-Assad is the head of Lebanon's Option Party and is fighting radical Islamic terrorism. He says the West is not doing enough. The ISIS atrocities, like the apparent execution of Japanese journalist Kenji Goto, has critics such as al-Assad faulting the Obama administration for, he says, not facing the ISIS threat quickly enough.
In Iraq and Syria, American leadership, including our military power, is stopping ISIL's advance.
And that, it turns out, is not really true. Our coalition forces did finally beat back ISIS in that key border town of Kobani. You know, it reportedly took 75% of all the airstrikes launched there so far to accomplish it. And despite that one glimmer of hope, the Islamic State vows to recapture the town as it scores successes elsewhere. According to the Wall Street Journal, the Islamic State's territory has grown in the last 5 months, from controlling this amount of territory in August to ruling this larger amount by last month, despite all of the coalition airstrikes. It is no wonder then that the Washington Post wrote, quote, "The Islamic State is growing stronger rather than weaker." Mr. Obama's passivity and false hopes are contributing to the steady worsening of the humanitarian and strategic situation. Kobani's relief, while welcome, won't alleviate the mounting catastrophe. And al-Assad says it's not just ISIS.
The Iranian regime is the one sponsoring Hezbollah, is the one sponsoring Hamas, is the one sponsoring the Sadrists in Iraq, is the one sponsoring the Houthiyyin in Yemen. So you cannot say that the Iranian regime is a radical movement that we can talk to and the ISIS people are radicals that are a threat to the world.
Well, ISIS has launched a series of attacks through Iraq and vows to spread its caliphate even further. This is those talks to try and stop Iran from building a possible nuclear bomb. Well, they continue to drag on for nearly 2 years now. Maria? All
right. Thank you very much. Eric Shawn with the latest there. More now with House Foreign Affairs Committee Chairman Ed Royce. And Congressman, what about that in terms of the Iran negotiations? A White House spokesperson this week on Thursday issued another threat saying that Obama would veto a bill being developed by Republican Senators Bob Corker and Lindsey Graham that would basically require congressional approval for any nuclear deal with Iran. Why shouldn't Congress have approval over any deal?
We should. And what we've seen is concession after concession out of this administration. If you think about the fact that what the Iranians are asking for now, they've already gained the right to continue to enrich. Those centrifuges continue to spin. But now they're saying we should have no limits on their ICBMs, that they should not have to allow verification at the site at Parchin where they did a lot of their testing. And so as we look at this in Congress, this is also a bipartisan position. The vote in the Senate the other day was 18-4 in favor of having Congress have a say. We want the administration to quit giving concessions to Iran, because if they keep doing it, Iran will have the ability to have undetectable nuclear breakout and will be able not only to have a weapon, but remember this administration pulled our intercept system out of Poland and out of the Czech Republic. That was intended to protect Europe and the United States if there was ever a launch from Iran. So under this situation, we have to be tough in these negotiations.
This, of course, was behind the decision to have Prime Minister of Israel, Benjamin Netanyahu, come to talk with Congress and get Israel's input in terms of any deal with Iran as well.
Yes, I think if you look at the situation from the standpoint of Israel, and I was in Israel in 2006 during the Second Lebanon War when Hezbollah were firing rockets over the border, and Iranians were helping them fire those rockets, had supplied a lot of those missiles and rockets. At that time, there were 20,000 missiles and rockets. Today, there's 100,000. Iran continues to supply, and their generals and officers are up now on the border of Israel in Syria, as you know, expanding that Shia crescent all the way from Iran into Lebanon. And so Israel is in a very precarious situation. We just saw what happened with Hamas. Now on their northern border, they have to contend with the other state sponsor of terrorism there that Iran is supporting, and that is Hezbollah. And Hezbollah takes their orders from Iran. So this is very concerning to them that simultaneous with the development of this nuclear weapons program, Iran is doing this buildup of missiles and rockets on the border across from Israel.
All right, we will leave it there. Congressman, we'll be watching the developments, obviously. We thank you for your time this morning. Thank you very much,
Congressman
Ed Royce, joining us.